I never imagined my life would change when a broken millionaire offered to wait for me. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Saturday morning. The sun streamed through my window, but the warmth barely penetrated my chest. I felt hollow inside, like a cracked egg just waiting to shatter. My phone buzzed on the table, breaking the silence with a shattering urgency. When I answered, her voice quaked through the line. "Mom's in the hospital," she said, and my world tilted like a shaken snow globe. In that moment, all my hopes crushed into dust. I was drowning in a sea of worries. My heart raced. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in the back of my mind. I had no choice but to head to the hospital. I grabbed my worn-out jacket, slipping it on against the chill that hung in the air, and rushed out the door, my hands trembling as I fumbled for the keys. My mother-me rock was in danger. As I drove through the bustling streets, the city blurred past. It was all a haze of bright lights and distant laughter, a cruel contrast to my inner turmoil. I promised myself I would stay strong. Just last week, we baked cookies together, her laugh ringing in the kitchen like a sweet melody I yearned to cling to. She was always my pillar of strength, the one who held my world together. But when I arrived at the hospital, my knees nearly buckled as I stepped into the sterile scent of disinfectant and trepidation. The waiting room was a collage of emotions. Mothers cradled infants while fathers stared blankly at the wall. I felt so small among all of them, my heart clenching tightly. Then I spotted him, the broken millionaire. He stood tall, but his posture crumpled slightly, as if the weight of his past anchored him back. He was unsettlingly handsome, with tousled hair and a mysterious aura that wrapped around him like fog. His eyes stormy and heavy with secrets locked onto mine. "I'm here for you," he said quietly, the depth of his tone sending chills down my spine. Who was he? What did he want? Conversations rippled through the room. People looked at us, whispers swirling like thick smoke. "What's he doing here?" someone murmured. I could practically feel their eyes piercing through me, judging, dissecting. "Why would you wait for me?" I asked, uncertainty clawing at my throat. I was nobody, just a girl in jeans and scuffed shoes. Yet he held a $1,000,000 smile that should have belonged to someone from a fairy tale. "Life is unpredictable, isn't it?" he replied. A cryptic smile stretched across his face, hinting at stories untold. Just then, the emergency room doors swung open, and a doctor stepped through, his expression grave. My heart dropped like a stone as he approached. I could see the pity in his eyes, and my mind raced. What was going on with my mom? I turned to the broken millionaire, caught in a whirlwind of confusion and fear. Did he know something I didn't? Every nerve in my body felt frayed, unraveling with tension. I didn't know where that moment would lead. Would this stranger be my savior or my downfall? The air hung heavy with uncertainty, and my heart beat violently against my ribcage. I had to find out. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The doctor approached us, his shoes squeaking against the polished floor in the hushed chaos of the waiting room. My breath hitched in my throat, choking out the fragile threads of hope I clung to. Behind him, nurses moved like shadows, carrying papers and charts as if they were burdens too heavy for the daylight. The broken millionaire stood beside me, firm and unyielding, as if his presence could ward off the despair creeping in on all sides. "Can we speak privately?" the doctor asked, his gaze darting nervously between us. I nodded, instinctively grabbing the broken millionaire's arm, squeezing for strength. But I quickly released my grip, feeling the weight of our situation press down my shoulders. We followed the doctor into a small room where the dim light made everything seem distant and surreal. "Your mother has suffered a stroke," he said, His voice clipped with professional calmness. "We need to monitor her condition closely. For now, she's stable, but you mean she's not going to be okay?" I interjected, the words sharp as glass slicing through the air. The doctor hesitated, the silence stretching unbearably. "It's too early to predict. You need to prepare for various outcomes. I'm sorry." The world tilted again, the hospital room spinning as reality stepped in like a thief, stealing away a crucial part of my life. I felt a warm presence beside me, and I turned to find the broken millionaire looking at me, his eyes reflecting a depth that spoke of understanding. He truly felt this weight even if he wasn't my family. "They'll be right here," he whispered, offering a sliver of comfort amidst the turmoil. We returned to the waiting area, where time seemed to stretch, filled with anxious moments. I caught glimpses of families receiving news, some rejoicing, some collapsing in grief. A nurse walked by, her eyes kind, a gentle smile on her face as she offered a cup of water. Small gestures like these flickered through the shadows, collecting in the corners of my heart, tiny lights of hope emerging in the desolation. As I sipped, I felt the warmth pass through my lips, a reminder that life still flowed even when the currents were turbulent. I looked at the broken millionaire again, his expression revealing something I had not yet discerned. It wasn't just sympathy, there was something deeper there. A shared understanding flowed between us. We were both lost, mangled in our own ways. Hours slipped away, each tick of the clock echoing louder than the last. Finally, a nurse approached. "She's awake." My heart soared, followed swiftly by a pang of fear. Would she be the same? How would I face her? I fought against a wave of nausea, uncertainty wrapping around my throat. "Let's go," the broken millionaire said softly, nudging me forward. He walked beside me, steady and grounding, even as my legs trembled as we entered the room. My heartbeat pulsed in rhythm with the machinery surrounding my mother, their beeps a bleak chorus to the symphony of my distress. She lay there, pale and fragile, yet her familiar features relaxed into a smile that lit up the darkness, threatening to engulf me. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice hoarse but filled with warmth as she reached for my hand. "I'm here." Tears sprung to my eyes, tracing warm paths down my cheeks as I squeezed her hand tighter, willing her to feel my love, my fear, everything I couldn't say. Just then, the broken millionaire stepped back slightly, allowing the moment to breathe. I caught his eye, and in that fleeting instance we exchanged unspoken promises. This connection we had forged was not merely a burden, but a lifeline for both of us. At my mother's gaze turned to him, curiosity danced there. "And you are?" She trailed off, awaiting an introduction. He hesitated, the shadows from his past flickering beneath the surface of his gaze. "A friend. I'm here to help." The weight of his words felt like a double-edged sword. Would this connection breed hope or be the source of another wound? As we settled into small talks of recovery and care, laughter and stories, I found an unexpected comfort in our shared presence. Yet a gnawing fear settled in my stomach. What if the road ahead would test the bonds we were forming? Just as I brushed off those worries, the door swung open again. A man in a sharp suit stepped in, urgency radiating from him. "We need to talk," he said, his eyes darting to the broken millionaire. "It's about the accident." The air turned icy. The tension snapped like a taut string, each word sinking into my chest. What accident? Why was it related to him? I barely registered my mother's concerned look as my gaze fixed on the broken millionaire. I could feel the world shift again, and a new storm began to gather on the horizon, casting a long shadow over everything I thought I knew. The starkness of the man's arrival lingered in the air like a cold gust that swept in only to leave uncertainty in its wake. I moved instinctively closer to my mother, who still looked bewildered yet determined to understand what was unfolding before us. The broken millionaire's expression hardened, an imperceptible shift in his posture reminding me that the burden he carried was far heavier than I had initially grasped. "What accident?" he demanded, his voice low and strained, a storm gathering at the edges of his calm facade. The man in the suit took a step forward, lowering his voice. "There are things you need to know about the events leading to your financial troubles. This is not about personal issues, but rather enough." The broken millionaire's voice cracked like thunder. You don't get to discuss anything without allowing her to understand what's at stake. Tension swelled, and I felt small and powerless as they stood there, two worlds colliding over shared fears and burdens. My mother gave my hand a soft squeeze, her gaze flitting back and forth between us, searching for clarity. I wished for clarity, too longing for the warmth that had momentarily surrounded us to return. "Listen," I said, my voice trembling. "What is happening? I just want to focus on my mom. Not any more complications." The man in the suit softened, a flicker of empathy momentarily replacing his urgency. "I understand, but you're in the middle of something much bigger. There are people involved who want shy away from this. We need to prepare now." The broken millionaire stepped forward, his protective stance shining through. "This isn't about her. It's not for you to dictate how we manage the situation." "Philip," the man said, as if trying to appeal to a past camaraderie that had once existed between them, "you have to see it from my perspective." "Philip?" The name dropped between us like a heavy stone, resonating with newfound significance. The broken millionaire wasn't just some broken anomaly in my life. He had a history, a name, and now a connection to this unexpected turmoil. As the implication of his identity sunk in, the weight on my chest grew heavier. Life shouldn't come adorned with such complexities. I shook my head, not knowing if the tears pooling in my eyes reflected outrage, confusion, or fear. My mother spoke then, her voice calm despite the chaos. "What is this about, really? Is this connected to our situation, you or the accident? Please, just tell us." The air crackled with unspoken words, unsettling truths that twisted like vines around my heart. I watched the broken millionaire man who had steadily walked beside me, whom I had begun to see in a different light, now faced a threat I couldn't begin to comprehend. Finally, the urgency broke through, cold and sharp as glass. "There was a car accident a week ago. Another party is involved. They're claiming negligence, and it could tie into your mother's situation. In trying to prepare you for the fallout, I felt my breath hitch, a tidal wave of panic crashing over everything I thought we might find in this moment. The seed of apprehension that had begun to take root bloomed into a full-fledged storm. Negligence? I echoed, fear threading through my voice as the reality of ramifications washed over me. But how? The suit exchanged a glance with the broken millionaire, a silent conversation brewing between them. In that moment, I realized their connection ran deeper than what had been shared, and I felt the dizzying spiral of uncertainty pull me under. "What happened?" I asked, desperate for a lifeline. "What are you hiding from me?" For a fleeting second, I saw apprehension flicker beneath the broken millionaire's carefully curated armor, and that glimpse shook me more than the man's revelations. His vulnerability mirrored my own, including the same need to protect. "It's complicated," Philip admitted, his voice low and raw, definably less the stoic facade I had grown accustomed to. "But what you need to understand is that I'm trying to keep you and your mother safe. That's my priority now." Just then, the nurse returned, breaking through our tension with a gentle presence. Yet even her warmth couldn't stave off the chilling revelation that had ensnared my heart. "I hate to interrupt, but you might want to come with me," she said, a hint of urgency in her tone. "What is it?" My stomach churned, a foreboding shadow creeping back in. "Your mother's condition has changed." The words hung heavily in the air, and I felt my heart plummet as I locked eyes with my mother, who managed a brave smile, even as the worry etched into her features was evident. The corridor felt impossibly long as we walked behind the nurse, a sense of dread settling like fog around us. I was pulled between two worlds, the bitterness of uncertainty shadowing our present and the warmth of unacknowledged connections just beginning to blossom. "Whatever happens," Philip whispered, catching my eye in a fleeting moment, "I won't let you face this alone. I promise." But with every word he spoke, I felt the weight of impending doom hover closer, ready to shatter the fragile sense of hope we'd both been trying to build. With dread gnawing at my insides, I sensed the inevitable truth. Our paths were intricately woven amidst the shadows, yet every thread could just as easily bind us or unravel our already frayed lives. The door swung open, and as I braced myself for what lay beyond, I knew deep down that this road we traveled now held secrets, for both of us that neither of us could foresee. The room was suffused with a sterile whiteness that seemed unable to accommodate the weight of the revelations already armed against us. My mother lay on the gurney, her figure dwarfed by the stark hospital sheets. I swallowed hard, a lump forming in my throat as the nurse gently adjusted the foredrip, her touch a clinical reminder of how fragile our lives had become. "Please," my mother whispered, when the nurse stepped back to provide us a moment alone. "I'm okay. Really?" The tremor in her voice betrayed her bravado. I longed to brush her hair away from her forehead, to tell her everything would be all right, but the tumult of my emotions churned in a way that left me speechless. "Mom, what's going on?" The question slipped from my lips unbidden, a plea for reassurance amidst the chaos. "You have to tell me if there's something we can do." This entire situation felt like a crashing wave, washing over all sense of normalcy, drenching us in a sea of uncertainty. Her hands, how they trembled as they lay gently against the sheets. I couldn't shake the thought that this might be the last time I saw her this way, vivid in my memory, alive, even as shadows lingered. "Caitlin, sweetheart." She paused, her eyes searching mine for an anchor amidst the chaos. "I may not have much time left. There are things I've kept from you, things that are, Mom," I interrupted, sensing the tide shift toward darker waters. "Well, fix this. Whatever it is, well, fix it together." Philip stood near the doorway, like a guardian at the edge of a storm. He lingered there, on the precipice, caught between the need to be in the room with us and the instinctive urge to protect us from whatever storm he sensed brewing outside. Each time I glanced his way, the intensity of his gaze bore into me, an understanding wrapped in layers of unspoken fears. "Caitlin," my mother said, her voice trembling like leaves in the wind, "there are things tied to our past that I've kept hidden out of love, perhaps, or fear. And now things have become too unraveled, too dangerous." "Oh," I whispered, an icy grip squeezing my chest. "Not now. We can find a way. You can't leave me like this." Her eyes closed for a moment. The weight of pain all but shattered any will she had to shield me from harsh truths. "If only I could protect you from this, my love. But Philip, he knows. He can help. You must trust him." The words fell heavy, like stones in water, leaving ripples of doubt simmering at the edges of my consciousness. "Do you really think I can trust him?" I shot back, lifting my chin defiantly. "How can I when everything feels like it's spiraling out of control?" "Caitlin," Philip interrupted, stepping forward, his voice holding a powerful urgency. "I swear I won't let anything happen to either of you. I promise." The sincerity of his words entwined with the crack of desperation in my mother's gaze. As much as I wanted to dismiss Philip's role in this chaos, the desperation stringing through his voice threatened to penetrate the iron wall I had unknowingly built around my heart. "I don't want to lose you, Mom," I pleaded, fresh tears igniting like sparks in my eyes. "Please tell me what to do." "Listen, go to the safe. The one in the office," she breathed softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I never wanted you to get mixed up in this, but you need to know there are documents that could explain everything. Everything that's about to happen." "What?" Confusion collided with fear as the weight of her words surged against my heart, demanding acknowledgement. "Mom, what have you done? What are you involved in?" A cough rattled in her chest, and I wanted to rush to her side, but my feet remained glued to the spot, frozen by a storm of emotions. "It's not what you think." The door crashed open, a hurried doctor rushing in with a team of nurses, causing my mother to falter in her attempts to speak. "Excuse me, we need to assess her vitals," he said urgently, dismissing the gravity of the moment with efficiency as they surrounded her. My heart raced, confusion entangling with dread. I wanted to scream for them to leave, to shut out the world while I sat with her, shielding us from whatever storm brewed beyond the walls. But instead, I felt the callous embrace of helplessness wrap tightly around me. "Caitlin." Philip stepped closer, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper as chaos enveloped my mother. "They'll go with you. We can get the no." I snapped, turning abruptly to face him. "You don't understand. I need to do this alone. This is my mother, my family. I don't need anyone telling me what to do." With a clarity that cut through all veils of fear, I met his eyes, my emotions swirling wildly within me. Somehow, I needed to protect her even as she slipped further away. The vulnerability I saw in Philip mirrored my own, yet it was a reflection of honesty I found unexpectedly profound. Just then, as the doctor steadied my mother, connected her to more machines, I felt Ida shudder deep in my bones, the tremor of a looming truth about to send my entire world spiraling. "I'll figure it out," I reiterated, grounding myself against the encroaching waves of panic. "I will." Filtration of smaller worries washed over me, but the revelation that lurked just beyond the edge of my awareness twisted in the air the hidden truths my mother would impart. The secrets coursing through our family like silent shadows, the weight of what Philip knew, and the danger lurking just beneath the surface. I felt it all, coiling around my heart as the storm gathered strength. And with a swift breath, the tension amplified in the room, every second stretching like molasses. I knew with a fierce clarity the real battle was only just beginning, and as I looked toward the uncertain horizon, the foundation we'd built together would be tested in ways we could never foresee. The cold of the hospital corridor enveloped me in an unsettling embrace as I stepped outside the chaos of my mother's room. The sterile smells of antiseptic and fluorescent lights followed me like an unwelcome shadow, but I had a new mission igniting my essence. Unravel the secrets that had patiently gnawed at the corners of our family story. As I leaned against the wall, my heart battered with urgency, I could feel Philip hovering nearby. I refused to turn my head. The air between us was charged, filled with a tension deeper than just unspoken words. It radiated, a shared understanding that this journey, however fraught, would demand more from us than either of us anticipated. I could feel his presence like a quiet offer of strength, but pride held me back. I needed to do this on my own. The urgent whispers of my mother's voice echoed in my mind. "Go to the safe." It felt like a lifeline thrown in the turbulent sea that was my life right now. Clenching my fists, I wrestled with the mix of emotions swirling within me. Fear, determination, a nameless longing for clarity. "Caitlin." Philip's voice broke through my internal chaos, deep and soothing yet tinged with caution. "We've got to make sure you're safe first." His tone almost felt like a mantra. I felt the knot in my chest tightening further, and I pressed my back against the wall as if it could absorb my turmoil. "I need to do this," I insisted, my voice steady, though inside I felt like a plucked string, a single note vibrating into the void. "I have to get those documents. They're the key." "Then let's go together," he suggested gently, giving me a way out, a safety net crafted from his unwavering resolve. "No, Philip," I snapped, my voice louder than intended, punctuated by the brittle silence of the corridor. I looked at him then, really looked, and saw the shadows of anguish marred by worry etched into his features. "You don't know what you're stepping into. I can't trust you." The words felt cruel even to my own ears. I could see his heart, open and exposed, battered by the weight of my rejection. It stirred something in me, a longing for connection that battled tooth and nail with the fear that had taken up residence in my life. "Caitlin, please." He stepped closer, hesitant yet persistent. "You don't have to be alone in this. I care about you and your mother. Just let me in." But the promise of his care felt fragile, like a delicate bubble that might burst at the slightest pressure. "My mother is sick, Philip. I don't know the whole story, and that terrifies me. Trusting someone else feels like a betrayal to her." A flicker of hurt crossed his face, but was quickly masked by an understanding that lingered just beyond the horizon of our emotions. "I wouldn't ask you to betray her, but what if you find something that changes everything? You might need someone to help you navigate it." I hesitated, torn between the tumult of family devotion and the subsequent realities that waited at the end of my journey. What could potentially lie hidden in that safe? The unearthing of secrets promised to bring clarity but threatened to unearth the very foundations of my life. With a shaky breath, I turned and began to walk away, needing to distance myself from the complexity he brought with him. I had to focus. I was on the precipice of revelation, and I couldn't allow myself to be distracted. "Caitlin, wait," he called after me, his voice laced with desperation. I halted but didn't look back, breaths mingling with the distant hum of machines that continued their rhythmic dance of life-saving. If you're doing this alone, you have to know I support you, no matter what that means. Just be careful that I hesitated, my heart thrumming erratically. Why do you care? The question was both accusatory and raw. Because your life matters, he said simply, his sincerity enveloping me like a warm blanket. And I want to help you, even if that means standing on the sidelines. I glanced over my shoulder. And in that moment I saw him again, just Philip, a broken millionaire trying to mend his own pieces while offering his strength to me in a time of need. Conviction warred with apprehension within me. Thank you, I whispered, my voice almost a sigh, before I turned and headed towards the office. Each step a blend of fear and resolve. The path ahead felt ominous. Yet as I neared the door, I found a flicker of hope growing in my chest. What if my mother was counting on me? What if it meant uncovering a truth so potent that it could reshape our existence? As I reached for the handle, a sudden strange noise took me by surprise. The unmistakable chime of a notification drew my gaze to my phone. It was a message from an unknown number. Caitlin, you need to leave now. They are looking for you. The message sent icy fingers of dread skittering up my spine. Were the secrets I sought more dangerous than I had anticipated? Heart racing, I reeled from the implications. Would everything I had been longing to uncover only plunge me further into the abyss of danger? With my heart pounding in my ears, I felt the enormity of the situation bear down on me. The echoes of my mother's words, Philip's sincerity, and the ominous threat of the message melded into a perfect storm. The journey ahead was far more perilous than I had envisioned. The stakes were climbing higher by the moment, and I was on the verge of plunging deeper into a game I didn't even understand. I hesitated, doubts churning savagely within me, wondering if I was truly prepared for what lay ahead. Time felt suspended as I stood on the threshold between safety and the unknown. Whatever lay inside that office would set everything in motion. Each heartbeat felt like a clock ticking down, a countdown to an uncertain fate hidden just beyond the door. The message from the unknown number flashed in my mind like neon lights. They are looking for you. The dread wrapped around me, pulling tighter with every moment I lingered in the corridor. I wanted to believe the files hidden within the safe could unlock the mysteries of my family, that they could serve as a bridge to understanding my mother's past, and perhaps her illness. But kicked up against the backdrop of imminent danger, the pull towards discovery felt reckless, almost foolish. I hesitated, torn between the safety of the Nona hospital bustling with life, even if it was rife with my mother's suffering, and the wild allure of secrets that promised clarity but could also shatter everything I held dear. But before I could lose myself in spirals of indecision, the sterile smell of the corridor deepened in my lungs, grounding me. I had fought too hard to come this far. My mother had never been one to shy away from confronting the truth, no matter how painful. I had to embody that spirit. With a resolve bolstered by a determined fury, I turned on my heel and pushed open the door. The air in the office was stale. The darkness still clung to the corners where the light didn't reach. My fingers brushed over the desk, flicking through papers and discarded pens, searching for clues that would lead me to the safe. I could hardly hear myself think over the rush of adrenaline pulsing in my veins. With each drawer I flung open, my desperation morphed into frustration. They were all empty, shallow, but filled with forgotten memories of what used to be. It was as if the room itself was mocking my timeline of despair, holding the documents tighter than a mother clutching her child. A loud crash echoed from down the hallway, rattling my thoughts. It sounded like a door slamming, but I couldn't focus on that. I needed to find the safe, and time was slipping through my fingers like dry sand. Where is it? I whispered, panic setting in. I ran my hands over the walls, searching for the outline of some hidden mechanism. Suddenly, a glimmer caught my eye, a small metallic keyhole half concealed behind a large framed photograph. My breath caught at the sight, a surge of relief and terror crashing over me like a wave. There it was, the safe, nestled innocuously in the shadow of family memories. But there was no key in sight. As I swallowed against the tightening in my throat, I felt a new kind of urgency. I sank to my knees, searching the floor and the surrounding clutter, desperate for anything that might serve my purpose. With every rustle of paper, my heart thumped louder. Each second felt like an eternity. But chaos had its own rhythm, and soon the sound of hurried footsteps approached, fragments of voices breaking through the thick air, sending ice through my veins. She has to be here somewhere. We can't let her leave without knowing. I froze, the words striking me with a clarity that frightened me. They were intent on finding me. The threats were no longer just a message. They had become flesh and blood. Walking down the corridor with ambition to close the chapter of my mother's past silenced me before I discovered what they feared. Caitlin. I heard Philip call again, distant yet filled with urgency. Somehow he sensed the danger, as if the bond between us had transcended mere coincidence. But I couldn't let them find me. The urgency that propelled me into this very moment now morphed into survival. I raked my fingers against the desk, feeling around for a way to hide anything that might give me just a moment longer. My eyes darted around, landing on a darkened corner behind a curtain. With a swift movement, I dropped to the floor and tugged the fabric aside. I wedged myself into the narrow space just as the office door burst open. There they were, two grim faces I didn't recognize, men with eyes like cold steel. Philip burst in just after them, his expression torn between confusion and fear. Caitlin, his voice laced with panic, mingled with the darkness. Creeping around me, my breath quickened, silenced by the thin fabric that separated me from discovery. I couldn't risk even a whisper. They scanned the room, voices low and intent. If she's here, we can't let her leave. Shivers ran down my spine. I glanced at the floorboards, wishing I could slip through them entirely. Philip stepped further inside, clearly trying to assess the situation, his eyes darting, searching. She's not here, he said, though his voice quivered on the edge of a lie. You need to leave. I held my breath, mind racing with the implications of his words. But was it for me or for himself? There was a hidden thread in our denials, something far more complex than mere concern. He was entangled in this just as much as I was, and whatever lay behind the office door felt an awful lot like a trap. Where are the files? One of the men said, raising his voice. You know what you have to do. At that moment, it was clear. Whatever truths I found waiting inside that safe threatened to unleash the very predators now hunting me. Everything I had been searching for was close enough to touch, but the thrill of revelation came with chains of consequence that could tether me to a fate I wasn't ready for. Silence encapsulated me, a claustrophobic cocoon, as Philip made yet another desperate attempt to redirect their focus. You don't need to do this. I can help you. His voice cracked, and in that moment, a ripple of something deeper ignited in my core. But his words only seemed to provoke more aggression. Get out of our way, Philip. The door clicked shut behind them, muffling their conversation. I fought to push aside the sense of dread, grappling with the truth that waited on the other side of the safe. Philip, with his broken promise to protect and my unattainable desire for clarity, hung in the balance. What was it worth if we played our cards wrong? In that shadowed corner, I realized I stood at the crossroads, with no obvious way out. I could uncover my mother's truth, but at what cost? There was nothing I could do now but wait for my opportunity, a perilous gamble where hope danced hand in hand with despair. And as I held my breath in that tiny space, silence became my only stark reminder that time could betray, for secrets had never been meant to resurface without bloodshed. The tension in the air seemed palpable, a tangible weight crushing down on my chest as I waited, crammed in that dark corner, feeling more fragile than the paper scattered across the desk. The muffled voices of those pursuing me continued to swirl amid my thoughts like a storm. Each word heightened the reality that I was awash in danger. My heart thumped violently against my ribcage, a desperate reminder of the urgency of my situation. Do you think she'll come back? One of the men asked, his voice edged with impatience. I felt a wave of nausea roll through me. The gravity of their purpose was dawning on me, and I found myself wrestling with the urges to run, to fight it all, because if they were here, it meant something I feared was far too close. Reality catapulted me into a whirlwind of sleepless nights and unanswered questions gnawing at my gut. How could I sift through the wreckage of my family's past without losing everything? A faint creak interrupted my dark reverie as the office door swung open again, and Philip stepped inside, looking paler than the shadows that hugged him. His gaze darted nervously to the still-hidden safe, reflecting the frantic urgency that belied the composure he tried to maintain. I could see it in his eyes, the reflection of the chaos unfolding and a flicker of determination. "I don't have anything," he said, his tone defensive yet reassuring. But deep inside I knew better. There was something hidden in him as much as in my mother's past, something we both feared coming to light. "Then you have no idea what we're capable of," one of the men shot back, advancing toward Philip and forcing him to back away. The tension surged, electric and heavy, thickening the air around me. I could feel the ground shift within me as their presence filled the space, my body screaming for me to take action. I had to trust Philip was genuinely trying to protect me, yet the doubt crept in. How deep was he tangled in this web? Did he know more than he let on? As Philip stood his ground, I couldn't hold back any longer. I pushed the curtain aside, feeling the flicker of hope surge through my veins, and took a tentative step out. Every moment of hesitation gave the men the fuel to grow more aggressive, more hostile, and I needed to interrupt their momentum. "I'm here," I called, trying to maintain a sense of control over my trembling voice. The men's heads snapped in my direction, eyes wide with a blend of surprise and annoyance. Philip turned, relief smashing against the uncertainty hardening his face. "Caitlin, no," he shouted as the tension escalated. Before I had a chance to even take a breath, one of the men lunged toward me, reaching out as if to catch my retreating form. I darted to the side, narrowly evading his grasp. Amidst the chaos of it all, I could feel my heart pounding hard against my chest, pumping adrenaline through my body, sparking instincts I never knew I had. "Caitlin," Philip's voice drew my attention, a desperate pleading echoing in my mind. But the risk loomed larger than my desire for safety. The walls of this room mirrored the conflicts I faced daily. To uncover the truth, I had to endure pain. "Stay back," I yelled, standing my ground. The words surprised me, flavors of spirit and refusal intermingling. A legacy I hadn't known I'd inherited until now. The second man shifted toward me, anger boiling in his eyes. "You don't know what you're meddling in," he spat. "You really think you're ready for this? You're in over your head." My breath hitched, and for a moment, I faltered under the weight of everything I hadn't resolved, all the unanswered questions lingering in the corners of my mind. "I want to know the truth," I replied, my defiance more powerful than the fear setting in. "If you think it'll let you bully me into hiding, you're wrong." I end that moment. A flicker of recognition sparked in the second man's glare, an unsettling shift in the atmosphere that made me wonder if something else lay beneath the surface of their hostility. Before I could examine the feeling coursing through me, Philip stepped forward, unwavering as he faced the men. "She's right. This won't end well for any of us if you push this." The tension thickened, and for a heartbeat, I thought they might back down. For a brief moment, I caught sight of humanity behind their hardened visages, but it vanished in the blink of an eye, replaced by the drive of ambition and the weight of secrets they'd fought hard to keep buried. "Time to make a choice, Caitlin," the first man said, his voice a sinister whisper, cruel and taunting. "What are you willing to sacrifice for what you think you want?" The question hung ominously in the air, forcing me to grapple with the implications of his words. What would I lose in my quest for understanding? What lay ahead, hazard or hope? As a moment of silence fell over us, I glanced at Philip. His silent plea resonated, his eyes searching mine, and I suddenly realized I wanted to believe in the goodness of people, in the possibility of victory over the shadows that clung to my family's past. But just as I gathered the courage for my response, the office door slammed open once more. This time, the heavy footsteps of another newcomer reverberated against the floorboards, filling the room with an energy that pulled the fabric of reality taut. "Enough." A commanding voice sliced through the tension, sending shockwaves through all of us. And as I turned to face the door, dread blossomed anew in my chest, blooming alongside a flicker of something unexplainable in the depths of my gut. The face that emerged from the shadows was one I recognized, a ghost from my mother's past that I never expected to see again. I gasped, the air rushing out of my lungs in disbelief. This was a revelation I hadn't anticipated, a connection that might unravel everything I thought I knew. "Caitlin," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos that danced around us. It's time we talked. And just like that, I found myself standing on the precipice of more questions than answers, feeling the weight of expectations pressing down as the truth I sought beckoned me closer, dangerously intertwined with forces I had yet to comprehend. The room felt different, electrified by an unspeakable intensity as the visitor stepped into the light, his presence casting long shadows across the uncertain terrain of my reality. I stood frozen, my breath caught, witnessing the sudden shift that unfolded before me. My heart raced, each beat resonating with disbelief and an unanticipated pang of recognition. Marcus, I breathed, the name slipping through my lips like a prayer for clarity. He was the man whose name had haunted my childhood, the figure wrapped in whispers and speculation, my mother's estranged love, the broken millionaire whose life at the edge of society had been stitched together with secrets. The men who had threatened us recoiled, their bravado faltering at the sight of him. The air thickened with unspoken history and the weight of a truth that felt as heavy as the world lay upon my shoulders. Had he come back to save my mother's legacy or to further entangle us in the dark web I was trying to escape? Why are you here? The words spilled from me, urgency punctuating each syllable as I searched his pained expression for answers. Because you need to know, he replied, his voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of sorrow. And because the danger isn't just from your past, it's from those who are still searching for it. He motioned towards the men I had been confronting, yet their hostility was now mixed with apprehension, as if Marcus' arrival had shifted the power dynamic. Danger? I repeated, a sick realization dawning. My family's past was intertwined with more than just memories. It was alive, dark, and persistent, gazing back at me with hungry eyes. As I scanned the room, I saw Philip, standing a breath away, caught between uncertainty and a desire to shield me. Caitlin, listen. Marcus' voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. I know everything. Your mother, she didn't just vanish. She made choices to protect you, sacrifices that will uncover unspeakable truths if you dare disturb them. But the truth also draws out those who won't hesitate to silence you. The weight of his words crushed me, and the flicker of hope I had clung to dimmed. Why should I believe you? You disappeared when I needed answers, I protested, needling the very core of betrayal that I felt towards my past. I was part of it, and I wasn't strong enough to confront it. He confessed, raw vulnerability rippling through his normally composed facade. But you are. You have to confront it. I won't let you face this alone. Fear intertwined with anger as I processed his admission. I took a step closer, asserting my need for autonomy despite the turmoil raging within me. How can I trust you? You've been gone. You made your choices, yet here I am, tangled in this nightmare you left behind. There was no escaping. He shot back, desperation creeping into his voice. You think I didn't want to be there? Every day was a reminder of the past I tried to leave behind, and every day I regretted the choices I made. But it's not just about me. It's about you. You have a chance to break this cycle. With clashing emotions, the men who had pursued me now found themselves in an unexpected stalemate, their intentions clouded. They seemed unnerved by Marcus' arrival. A whisper of something deep-era history that connected them all floated in the air, teasing the shadows of my curiosity. The first man, his resolve faltering, shifted his weight. We're not afraid of you, Marcus, he sneered, but the deceit in his eyes revealed his uncertainty. We're here for something far more valuable than old memories. A silence enveloped us, every breath hanging on the cusp of revelation. I glanced between Marcus and the men, feeling the ground beneath me tremble. Tell me what they want, I demanded. What is it that binds us all together? The question lingered, and Marcus hesitated, his face contorting with an emotion that felt far too heavy to carry alone. It's not just about your mother's past. It concerns a choice she made, a choice hidden within an inheritance that could rewrite everything you think you know. It's the very thing they're after. Anguish twisted in my gut. I barely understood the magnitude of my mother's decisions, and the inherited burden now threatened to swallow me whole. And what if I don't want any part of it? I whispered, fear battling for dominance against a burgeoning hope. Then they will win, he responded, his voice zeroing in as if trying to awaken something dormant within me. And you'll lose the possibility of uncovering who you really are. You have power, Caitlin, but only if you choose to embrace it. Every fiber of my being screamed for escape, but deep down, I could feel the echoes of my mother's strength throbbing in my veins. The choice was not merely about me. It was about generations of secrets and resilience stirred from silence. Make your move, I said, my voice resolute, as Adrian and the other men closed in, their eyes glimmering with something more sinister than before. The seconds stretched into eternity, and in that moment of suspended dread and determination, the door creaked ominously behind me. I turned quickly, and then it hit me a realization that the past was no longer obscured. Behind another set of indistinct shadows lingered another figure, one who had been influential in my mother's story, a woman I never thought I would see again. My breath caught. No, Caitlin. The familiar voice spoke softly, an echo of warmth clashing against the harsh realities before me. And as I peered through the shadows, the new revelation threatened to fracture the foundation of what I thought I knew. I've come to help, but we have little time, she pressed, nodding toward Marcus and the threat of the men. And as I tried to catch my breath, the swell of emotions tugged fiercely at my heart, marred by confusion and longing. Who are you? It was a whisper, lost amidst the storm that was about to consume us all. No more hiding, she declared, stepping into the light. It's time for you to remember who you truly are. And it's time for all of us to face what's coming. With every heartbeat echoing against the walls, I felt I was unraveling. The truth destined to collide with power, choosing loyalty and courage in the face of dread. The question was no longer if I was ready for it all, but if anyone would survive through this intricate maze of emotions and perilous secrets. It was a feeling like standing at the edge of a precipice, the dawn of realization pricking at the edges of my consciousness as the woman, clad in a stunning shade of emerald, emerged from the shadows. The memories surged, but they were dulled, like distant echoes of laughter wrapped in sorrow. My heart hammered in my chest as I grappled with who she could be. Mom? The word slipped, almost as if it were a prayer. I had rehearsed this moment countless times, replayed it in the silence of my room. Yet now, faced with this woman whose features mirrored my own, the weight of disbelief fell heavy. Yes, Caitlin, she said, her voice a gentle caress, drenched in warmth yet tinged with an urgency that shattered the illusion of safety. But this isn't a reunion, it's an awakening. There's so much we need to discuss and the chaos surrounding us. Her words penetrated like shards of clarity. I stood there paralyzed. The men I had faced had become mere specters of a more profound threat that lingered in the fragmented narrative of my family. I looked at Marcus, whose sorrowful gaze was interlocked with mine, mirroring confusion and a desperate yearning for resolution. Why now? My voice, suddenly fractured, trembled as I spoke. After all these years, where have you been? Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and the lines etched into her face told stories of time wasted and battles fought. I had to protect you, Caitlin. Choices were made that altered our paths forever, but the time for hiding is over. They are coming for what is ours, what is yours. I absorbed her words. A mixture of anger and longing flared within me like a wild fire. You call it protection, but it felt like abandonment. All I've ever wanted was answers. I know, she whispered, stepping closer, reaching out a hand as if to touch my cheek. I flinched at the warmth, caught in a whirlwind of emotions that felt foreign yet achingly familiar. But some truths come at a cost, and the cost isn't just knowledge. There's danger ahead, and I need you to trust me. Trust? The words slipped like ice from my lips, piercing the air saturated with tension. Just when I thought I had grasped the shadows of my family's past, the storm surged into something more frightening. Adrian and the other men shifted, their patience waning, their eyes darting between us like wolves waiting to see who would falter. Trust can't exist in a vacuum of fear, Marcus interjected, firm yet gentle. If we're going to stand against these men for your mother, for whatever legacy she has bestowed upon you, we need to work together. Suddenly, a flicker of hope surged in my chest despite the weight of disbelief. Was it possible that this collection of broken souls around me could rise against the very monsters forged from our shared history? You did this for a reason. I looked to my mother, the yearning now a raging tide. What is it they want? She hesitated, as if weighing the consequences of revealing the unthinkable. They want the inheritance, Caitlin. The real one, the one hidden in your mother's affairs. It's a key to a power they will use for their own gain. I thought the danger had subsided, but I was wrong. They've tracked you down. They've always been tracking us. Frustration and fear twisted violently within me. But I don't want anything to do with it. I want to be free. Adrian chuckled darkly, his expression morphing into a snarl, revealing a hidden menace that threatened to break free. You think you can refuse your destiny? Enough. Marcus stepped forward, creating a barrier between me and those who had cornered us. Caitlin deserves to choose her own fate, not be dragged into the darkness by a past riddled with secrets and lies. Before I could process the implications of our situation, a cacophony of footsteps echoed from behind us. Reinforcements. The air thickened with tension, and I felt my fight or flight instincts sparking wildly. It's now or never, my mother said urgently, glancing towards Marcus, then the men and finally back to me. You have to decide if you truly want to confront them. We need to fight, but I can't do it without you. In the tenuous seconds that followed, as footsteps closed in, I felt the pull of my mother's gaze. It was a mirror reflecting not just the choices of my past, but the power lying dormant within me. And in that moment, I understood her plea. It wasn't just about the inheritance or the chase. It was about freedom, a chance to rewrite my story. I choose to fight, I declared, a fire igniting within me. As those words resonated through the space we occupied, I looked toward Adrian and his companions with new resolve. But before I could react, a sudden eruption of violence surged through the room. The men lunged, chaos exploding in a tempest of shouts and grappling limbs. I felt the breath leave my lungs as I screamed for clarity amid the shattering of glass. In that split second of mayhem, Marcus pushed me to the floor, shielding me from the fray as my mother was overtaken, a dark figure clutching her arm. I fought against the instinct to free myself, rooted in terror as Marcus's arms surrounded me like a protective cocoon. Hold on, he shouted, but it felt dismissive, like the last flicker of flames during a wildfire. The blood rushed to my ears, drowning out the chaos as reality warped and twisted. Focus slipped, the air thickening as the shouting intensified. Shadows danced over the edges of my vision, and I turned to find my mother disappearing into the crowd of dark figures, swept away by the tempest the past had unleashed. Mom! My cry shattered the air, the confusion bubbling to a boil as anxiety coiled tightly within my chest. I forced myself to rise against the tumult, fighting the weight of despair and hopelessness. There was still time. I could still reach her. Get her back, Marcus shouted from behind, but doubt crept into my heart, shadowed by fear. And as the men regrouped, their motives intertwined with a lurking foreboding, I understood. The battle had just begun, and now, with my mother whisked into obscurity, I had to confront not just the ghosts of family, but the dark revelations that were bound to follow. And for the first time, the stakes felt insurmountable. Amid the chaos, I felt a new weight settle on my chest. The real battle was not just for survival, but for the truth, and with it, I risked unearthing everything I had long been desperate to escape. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered ominously as I stumbled through the chaos of the battle unfolding before me. My heart raced, each beat a reminder of everything I had to lose: my mother, my future, myself. I could feel the tension in the air crackling like a live wire, amplifying the fear that threatened to envelop me entirely. I fought against the tide of panic rising within, desperately seeking clarity amid the storm of confusion. Mom! I screamed again, my voice cutting through the haze as I pushed my way through the writhing mass of bodies. The echoes of my cry reverberated against the sterile walls, but they were swallowed up in the tumult, lost to the cacophony of shouts and shoves. It felt as though I were stuck in a waking nightmare. A whirlwind of shadows dragged me deeper into the darkness, pulling at my resolve like heavy chains. Marcus had shielded me moments before, and though I could feel his fiery determination radiating warmth in the frigid air, the distance between us grew like an insurmountable chasm. Each time I tried to push through the shifting crowd, I caught glimpses of my mother, caught within the clutches of fear and desperation. I had to reach her. I had to help her. In the midst of the chaos, I caught a glimpse of a familiar green dress, the emerald hue fierce against the grays and blacks of the surrounding bodies. My mother. My heart swelled with hope, every heartbeat louder than before. But in my rush to reach her, a heavy hand clamped down on my shoulder, spinning me around to face the first man again, the one whose eyes held countless intentions I could not begin to decipher. "You think you can save her?" he snarled, eyes glinting like daggers. I gritted my teeth, refusing to cower. "You're wrong. I will save her." The conviction caught in my throat, but I pushed through. Maybe it was desperation, or perhaps the flicker of strength ignited by my mother's presence. But I stood firm, challenging the darkness that surrounded me. Without hesitation, I elbowed him in the ribs and darted past, pouring every ounce of energy into finding my mother. "Caitlin, wait!" Marcus' voice broke through the tumult, his exquisite energy lending me courage beneath the chaos, as he repositioned himself by my side. "We need to regroup." "No, we can't leave her," I shot back, urgency lacing every word. The urgency propelled me forward, my feet carrying me as if guided by an unseen force. "We have to end this." I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins. Each step emanated fierce determination to uncover the truth not just for me, but for her. Somehow, I broke through the disarray and found myself in view of several figures closing in on my mother. "No!" I shouted, a primal scream escaping my lips as I pushed through. The sight of her vulnerability instilled a rage deep within me. Desperation clawed at my insides, morphing into raw power, igniting my spirit. Just as one of the figures advanced, my hand shot out, gripping the nearest object, a heavy metal chair, and I swung it, sending it crashing against the man's legs. He collapsed with a howl, but the struggle forced me to focus. Ray of clarity illuminated the edges of chaos, allowing me to see with brutal honesty this wasn't only about her. It was about breaking the cycle of fear that had kept my condition bound within darkness. "Caitlin." Another voice called Philip's voice, layered with urgency. But there was no time for doubt, nor hesitation. With renewed strength, I reached my mother, grasping her arm with fierce resolution. "We're getting out of here," I vowed, determination rushing through me like wildfire. "Caitlin, listen to me," she said, her voice strained but resolute. "The men there after something more than just us. A legacy," I whispered, comprehension dawning. The fragments of past conversations at the hospital, unearthing a hidden wealth wrapped in shadows, coursed through. Information shrouded in secrecy, the kind that could alter the fabric of lives. But it propelled me further. Her revelation was a reminder that fear would not own me any longer. "They want to erase us and steal it," I realized. "We can't let that happen." My mother's gaze bore into mine, filled with unyielding strength. "You're right, but it's not safe. They'll hunt us down." Just then, Marcus appeared at my shoulder, tightening the invisible bonds between us, a forceful protector. "Together, we can fight back," he urged, the depth of his voice blending with the chaos. "We know the stakes now. This is about much more than just survival." At that moment, adrenaline surged through me, obliterating every lingering doubt. Trust, strength, the willingness to embrace our power rather than allow fear to stifle it. But how? I felt the uncertainty creeping in with renewed intensity, the shadows clawing at my resolve still. Together, Marcus affirmed, his eyes blazing. "We share the weight of our past. Embracing it gives you the power to forge your own future." The collision of our eyes lit a fire deep within. "Then let's take them down," I declared, finding my voice amid the quiet rage that buzzed around me. My fingers entwined with my mother's, with Marcus beside us, lifelines in the storm of chaos. The faces of our enemies massed before us, but I felt the hollowness of fear wash away, constructing defenses built on the bonds of family and trust. The men charged forward, but we were ready. I lunged, filled with an ignited spirit, and together we confronted the darkness. With each move we made, trust enfolded us like a protective shield, grounding my resolve, and just as the tide seemed too great, I knew I would not back down. The battle raged on, each moment a blend of hope and chaos. But despite the chaos swirling around us, I clung fiercely to the promise of truth and reclamation. I was no longer fleeing in the vast expanse of uncertainty. I was standing tall, daring the shadows that once haunted me to meet the light of truth. And as destiny intertwined our fates and voices of trust reverberated through the air, I sensed the dawn breaking. The cycle was changing, weaving past and future into a tapestry stronger than any fear that had sought to unravel us as the last echoes of the fight faded. I knew the journey would only continue to transform. I clasped my mother's hand tightly, the warmth anchoring me as we faced the aftermath with unyielding courage. After the chaos settled, silence enveloped the room, heavy with loss and triumph alike. "It's time we rewrite our story," I whispered, my voice trembling yet resolute. My mother nodded. "Together," she affirmed, a fierce light igniting in her eyes, an echo of the spirit that hung in the air waiting to be reborn. And as we stood together in the quiet aftermath, I understood. There would be challenges and darkness still concealed in the shadows, but we had forged a path toward understanding and acceptance. Our family, though broken, was now united, a force to be reckoned with. With the dawn of a new chapter ahead, I squeezed her hand tighter. "Let's face whatever comes next." Together, we stepped into the warm glow of the day beyond, ready to conquer the world with our truth in our hearts, a truth so powerful it could illuminate even the darkest corners of our lives. For in the end, trust, courage, and love were the real inheritance, and we were finally ready to embrace it. Together, I whispered again, grounding myself in the moment, ready to carve our path in the vast unknown of the future. We were wise, we were strong, and together, we would face it all, refusing to allow shadows of our past to dictate our light. Together, those whispered words felt like a promise, illuminating our way forward into the boundless horizon. A promise that, no matter the darkness that awaited, we wouldn't face it alone.